Good morning, everyone, and happy belated World Oceans Day. World Oceans Day was yesterday, but we are continuing our celebration of World Oceans Day with a virtual visit all about citizen science and beluga whales. My name is Anna.
I'm Leah.
And we're really excited to be chatting with y'all today. So we're going to start with a bit of background on what citizen science is. So I will get a PowerPoint pulled up in a minute, and we will jump straight into it. If at any point you can't hear, can't see, something seems wrong, feel free to drop it in the chat, and feel free to ask any questions you might have in the chat as well. All right, so as I said, today we are talking all about citizen science. So we're really excited. This is a super impactful topic, so we're really excited to be talking all about it with y'all. All right, so to start off, we have a quote. Leah introduced me to this quote. It's by John Donne, and I think it sums up kind of the concepts of citizen science really well. So this quote reads, "No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." So for everyone watching, I want you to take a second, think about that quote, and then I would love it if you would drop in the chat any words or concepts that come to mind when you hear this quote. So take a second, think about the quote, and comment anything that comes to mind when you hear this quote. All right, we're looking a little shy this morning. That's okay, that's okay. So I think this quote applies to citizen science because every action that we do has an effect on our ecosystem, whether we notice it or not, and whether it's positive or negative or not. So citizen science is a really great way to have a super positive impact on our ecosystems. So let's jump into what citizen science is and how it works. So citizen science is the collaboration between researchers and communities to advance scientific knowledge. And what we have up on the slide here are kind of what I think are the three main concepts of citizen science. So the first and probably the biggest concept is collaboration. So people in the community and scientists are working together to do research, advance scientific knowledge, and kind of find out new things. And the finding out new things ties into the second concept of citizen science, which is education. As we're doing all this research collaboratively, we are learning about issues that are affecting our neck of the woods. So we're learning about what's going on right where we live. So that can be really fun. And then the third kind of main concept of citizen science is participation. So we're sharing in the experience of working to conserve our local ecosystem. So we're kind of all working together, and that's a huge part of what citizen science is. So now that we kind of know what it is, let's look at some specifics. Let's look at some local projects in Alaska. So as you can see, we have some projects listed here. To start, we have the Alaska Beluga Monitoring Partnership, and they look at the critically endangered Cook Inlet beluga population. We'll be hearing a lot about them later, so get real excited. It's super interesting. There's also seabird monitoring. And they survey seabirds, and they collect high-quality beached bird data, which is really, really important and tells us a lot about our ecosystem. There's the Beluga Count, which is a citizen science opportunity that only happens once a year. It's in September, and their goal is to foster pride, awareness, and stewardship of the Cook Inlet belugas. We'll hear a little bit more about that as well. There are projects on terrestrial mammals, and they study wolves and other carnivores on the Alaska Peninsula by sending in organic samples. So that's awesome. There are projects on marine mammals, which this project is looking at why stellar sea lions continue to decline in the Aleutian Islands. And then if you like insects, there are citizen science projects in Alaska on insects as well. And they're looking at pollinators and bark beetles on the Alaska Peninsula. So if you don't come from Alaska, there are some citizen science projects you can do. So let's broaden our scope a bit and look at how citizen science is impacting the community all across North America. So as you can see, we have three big projects up here. The first one I want to talk about is the Big Nature Project in British Columbia. And their goal is to collect photographic evidence of animals in their natural habitat. And they have been super successful in this goal. They have crowdsourced over 1 million wildlife observations, and they're reaching for more. That's fantastic. We've learned so much, so that's great. There is the Marine Invasive Monitoring Information Collaborative in my hometown of Boston, Massachusetts. And they bring together volunteers and scientific experts from state, federal, and nonprofit organizations to monitor for marine invasive species all up and down the New England coast. So that is a huge area to cover. And they have hundreds of trained volunteers, and they have done a lot of great work as well. And lastly, we have the Texas Nature Trackers, and they're part of the Wildlife Diversity Program. And they track the status of wild populations of plants and animals all throughout Texas, so lots of ground to cover. And they have so many projects happening. They look at everything from eagle's nests to mollusks, which is great. So I definitely encourage you to look at all these projects. Even if you're not from the area, they have a ton of great information on their website, so definitely check them out. So we've looked at some geographically based citizen science, but what if there isn't a local one near you? I have some good news for you. There are online citizen science projects that are always looking for help, so let's take a look at some of those. As you can see, we have some listed up here. The first one we have is iNaturalist, and they share pictures and observations within your local ecosystem. And this is really great because it is so collaborative. So it allows us to kind of work together to find new information. And it is an app, so you can have it right on your phone, which is super convenient. There's Zooniverse, which is a bit similar to iNaturalist, and that is kind of a big online platform about all things citizen science. So they're great as well. There is SciStarter, which helps people find ways to volunteer in citizen science projects. So it kind of helps match people to a citizen science project. So that's really neat, super helpful if you're looking to get involved, a great place to start. The Smithsonian Institution Online is a bit of a different resource. It's great for background information. So if you wanted to kind of learn kind of what you're getting yourself into with a citizen science project, or learn more about a concept in the research you're going to be involved in, learn more about what you'll be researching, the Smithsonian Institution Online has so many resources, a huge database of information, so definitely check them out if you're looking to kind of get some background information. And lastly, we have eBird, which is online birding. They have a mobile app, so if you see birds while you're out and about, you can just throw it in the app, and you're helping out with citizen science, so that is a super easy way to do that. So my fellow intern, Leah, has some really amazing firsthand experience with citizen science. So she is going to talk all about her experience and give us some more information about the Cook Inlet Belugas. So take it away, Leah.
Hi. I've been involved in a few citizen science programs since I've moved up to Alaska, so within the past 10 years or so. The first thing I was involved in, there was a whale stranding event that happened a couple years back in the Turnagain Arm. I live in Girdwood. So I was driving on the Turnagain Arm, and I noticed a bunch of people pushing a whale back into the ocean. So I actually pulled over, got out of my car, and helped push that whale back into the ocean. And we did successfully push the whale back into the ocean, only to find out that it had beached itself again and passed away not too long after. So that was really impactful for me personally and emotionally. I read an article about that at the event later on from the Alaska Dispatch News, and the scientists that were involved in that said that the most impactful thing that we can do is to become involved in citizen science or work on learning more about these creatures and the threats to them. So that actually encouraged me to leave a pretty long career in hospitality and move into the science field where I am today. I've also done work in Elodia Removal, which Elodia is an invasive species plant that is an aquatic plant, and what it'll do is it'll kind of take up all of the vegetative space at the bottom of a lake, and it's not a very high quality plant, so animals such as like salmon can't get the nutrients they need from that plant. So it's important that we know how to remove it and get out into the area as citizen scientists to help our environment. So today I'd like to first talk about the beluga whale population and specifically the Cook Inlet beluga whales. The Cook Inlet is just north of here. It's along the Turnagain Arm and goes all the way up past Anchorage to the Knik Glacier. Before I do that, I would like our friend Beethoven to do some introduction for us. So take it away, Beethoven.
So, all right, you guys want to hear some sounds?
Oh, absolutely.
From him? Okay. We call that one a click. Pretty cool.
It's like he's blowing bubbles, right?
Kind of. Call that one a squawk. See how it's coming out of his blowhole? So he's got his mouth under the water. He makes that sound out of his blowhole. Call this one sputter. Call this one popcorn. And we have this whistle that we use to tell him he's done a good job, so take a listen to it really quick. So you heard that? Listen to Beethoven. He learned how to mimic it, which is
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
so cute.
We have one more sound. I saved the most beautiful one for you. Isn't that attractive?
That is awesome.
Gorgeous.
Thanks, Beethoven. For those curious, Beethoven is now located at the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. Today we're going to learn about beluga whales and, like I said, specifically our local population of the Cook Inlet beluga whales. Much of what we know about beluga whales is due to observations of native peoples, as their natural habitat is in Arctic and subarctic waters. As you heard from Beethoven, belugas have a wide vocal range and they can imitate different sounds. They're known as the canaries of the sea for this behavior. Their sounds can travel through the water faster than sounds can travel through air, and this helps them communicate as they're very social creatures. They typically swim in pods of 8 to 10, but they're known to gather in the hundreds along coastlines. Belugas are also social with other animals and humans. They often migrate with bowhead whales, and they're very curious about humans. They'll swim right up to boats. Beluga whales are very well adapted to their environment. They have a completely white-colored body, and they lack a dorsal fin. That helps them swim undetected through Arctic and subarctic waters. They're opportunistic feeders, so they'll eat just about anything that comes their way. Worldwide, there are about 200,000 beluga whales with a lifespan of 30 years. The major threats to beluga whales are hunting, as they were previously hunted by native groups in Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and Russia. Hunting is now pretty regulated to help stabilize population numbers. Pollution is also a large threat because they're opportunistic feeders, so they'll eat trash by accident. The natural enemies of beluga are killer whales and polar bears. Our local population, the Cook Inlet beluga whales, are native to the Turnagain Arm and Knik glaciers of areas of Alaska. They usually migrate north near the Knik Glacier to breed and give birth to their calves, and migrate further south by Girdwood and Hope to feed. The Cook Inlet belugas are the smallest of 5 subpopulations in Alaska. Their population is very isolated, so they're genetically unique to other whale populations. When this population was first studied in the 1980s, there were approximately 1,300 Cook Inlet belugas. After a huge population decrease in the 90s, there are only about 279 Cook Inlet beluga whales. Because beluga whales blend in so well with their environment, they're really hard to keep track of. We rely on citizen science efforts to help monitor the population and distribution of this species. One of the current biggest threats to the Cook Inlet beluga whales is industrial noise. Their habitat is highly industrialized, so noises from ship traffic, dredging, aircraft, pile driving, and various machinery can confuse them and prevent them from socializing. It can cause them to even strand themselves. As we heard from Beethoven earlier, belugas are very vocal. So today we have the opportunity to talk to Suzanne Steinert, the founder of the Beluga Whale Alliance. The Beluga Whale Alliance is a nonprofit organization devoted to supporting worldwide and local conservation of beluga whales and their Arctic and subarctic habitats through science-focused outreach, education, collaboration, community participation, and research. So let's cut to that interview.
Good afternoon. My name is Leah, and I'm an education and interpretation intern at the Alaska Sea Life Center. I've been a resident of the town of Girdwood, Alaska for quite some time, and today we have the opportunity to speak with Suzanne Steinert, the founder of the Beluga Whale Alliance. The Beluga Whale Alliance is a citizen science effort that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm very excited to have this opportunity today. So Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit how you got involved in this effort?
Sure. Thanks so much, Leah. And to the Alaska Sea Life Center for having us join you guys today to talk about our work and citizen science. So living in the Girdwood area, working out at the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center, seeing as an intern myself as well back in 2014, seeing the belugas in Cook Inlet for the first time there and becoming a member of the community in this area, I realized pretty quickly that a lot of people seem to value the belugas and being able to see them swimming around near shore seasonally, but didn't know a lot about their conservation status or about their activity patterns. And I went on to pursue my graduate work in endangered species conservation strategies and recovery strategies, and really realized that maybe an effective recovery strategy that was missing for this population was outreach and getting people directly involved in the recovery of this critically endangered beluga population, which is one of the most endangered in the world that we have right here in our own backyard.
Cool. So what are your primary goals and how do you achieve them?
Yeah, so at Beluga Whale Alliance, we're really focused on collaboration, building community around belugas, and keeping things science focused. So here in our home region of Cook Inlet, our primary focus is on contributing to the recovery of the Cook Inlet belugas, but we have expanded out our scope and our vision of really using and highlighting the Cook Inlet beluga population to connect people to belugas globally as a species through our outreach and through people's participation in their conservation, learning about them, learning more about belugas as a species and the threats that they are going to be increasingly facing globally with issues like climate change. So one of our, really our flagship fieldwork program here in Cook Inlet along the shores of Turnagain Arm specifically is our citizen science and interpretation program, where we get local folks and even visitors too out along the water seasonally when the belugas are around chasing the anadromous fish runs, and we get them out on every tide, seeing the whales, collecting actual scientific data on their activity, the numbers of whales they're seeing, their behavior, and then learning about the whales as well and teaching others that they might encounter about the belugas too.
So in your time doing Beluga Whale Alliance, what have you learned so far?
So things that are really cool that we've been able to see and observe and learn is that really the whales, just even last season, our field team and a team of volunteers, we had folks out helping us with the citizen science surveying pretty much every day in the fall, or out along the water watching for the whales, helping contribute to crowdsourcing data on their activity, and really saw that throughout the late summer and early fall, the whales are active near shore in this stretch of critical habitat right by Girdwood pretty much every day on every tide. So a lot of people here locally, especially as the Cook Inlet beluga population has declined, we hear it's very common for people to say, oh, I never see them anymore. Or like, I used to see so many, I used to see hundreds at a time, all the time, and now I never see them. But we've learned that their activity really is still very consistent. I mean, it's as on demand as you can get with seeing belugas, I think, anywhere in the world, which is amazing. and synced with the tide. So really right as that boar tide, the headwaters of the high tide comes in, really the whales swim in right with it as it fills up, the water fills up the bathtub of the Turnagain Arm here. So that's something that's really cool, and it's really important to our purpose and mission and messaging too, because if we don't take action and actually work to put this knowledge that we're accruing, into action to conserve this population, we won't have that ability to see them so regularly and consistently too much longer, unfortunately.
So how do you put your research and your collection of data into that action?
Great question. So the data that we are actively in local ecological knowledge, along with the citizen science survey data that we accrue, actually goes directly to, it's communicated and given directly to NOAA Fisheries, the federal managing agency that oversees the recovery of the Cook Inlet belugas, and they use that data and information directly in decision-making processes to support the conservation of these whales, whether it's construction project permits or development and whatnot. And so our volunteers really they say regularly, consistently, when they learn that, or that's reiterated to them, that it's incredibly rewarding for them to know that the data that they're out there collecting is actually being used directly in the management of the whales in that way to help make sure certain projects, for instance, are undertaken in ways that will not cause adverse impacts to the whales, because we know living right near Alaska's largest city of Anchorage and the largest human population, there's a lot of development going on, a lot of noise, and all of those things are high-level threats to this population's survival.
And how do people get involved?
Great question too. So we have a variety of ways that folks can get involved with us and supporting our citizen science work. We joined and helped to co-establish the Alaska Beluga Monitoring Partnership in 2019. So if you email alaskabmp@gmail.com, you can sign up and learn how to become a beluga citizen scientist here. So whether you're based in Anchorage, here along Turnagain Arm, or even down near the Kenai River. We have partners that we work with as part of the Alaska Beluga Monitoring Partnership that help facilitate beluga citizen science monitoring around Cook Inlet. So you can actually get out along the shore, get trained up in how to collect data, and find a spot that you like to watch for beluga whales and get to connect with them, learn about them, and collect that important data that is critical to their recovery. We also help co-host, along with NOAA Fisheries and a variety of partners, including the Alaska Sea Life Center, the Beluga Count annual event every September. So unfortunately, because of COVID last year, the event was canceled, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be moving forward this September. And that's a really big, fun, full day event where if you are in the Cook Inlet region, you can come out at a variety of sites along the region in the morning and watch for belugas on the rising tide, and then participate in a festival afterwards in the afternoon where you can learn all about belugas and our endangered beluga population here in Cook Inlet.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm very excited. Is there anything else you'd like to add just about your knowledge or anything you want to get out there for citizen science purposes?
I think just it's so important. Citizen science really is, I think, the best way here in Cook Inlet. For people to see belugas, connect with them, and directly participate in their conservation. I mean, we live in such a unique area with such a unique beluga population that it is so cool that this is really truly one of the best best places in the world to see belugas in the wild, let alone one of the most endangered beluga populations. So it is like a really cool way to harness the uniqueness of the location and this ability we have to see these unique belugas and actually contribute to their recovery. So I encourage everybody to get involved. We're really working to increase this year the diversity and inclusion of our audience too, and our volunteer base. So there's a lot of sites that are, for instance, really accessible to folks with disabilities as well. So, we're really hoping to get more people involved, as many people as involved as possible. And it really will take a village to help us save this special population of belugas.
Yeah, it's an incredible population. I've admired them many times driving along the Turnagain Arm. And just to recap, what's the best way to contact you or to get involved?
Sure. So you can contact Beluga Whale Alliance directly, especially if you live here in Girdwood or along Turnagain Arm, our stomping grounds, at info@belugawhalealliance.org. And then if you're interested expressly in volunteering as a citizen science with the Alaska Beluga Monitoring Partnership, you can go visit www.akbmp.org or email alaskabmp@gmail.com for more information.
Thank you so much again for your time. That was awesome. And I look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Leah.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for doing that interview, Leah. That was great.
Yeah, no problem. So another awesome thing about the Beluga Whale Alliance is they'll send out mass texts when the whales are out and active on the arm. There are also daily updates of recent sightings of the Cook Inlet beluga whales at cookinletbelugawhales.com. So let's take some questions.
I see we have a great question from Margaret. Margaret said, why do they come in on the rising tide? Are there food sources that they can only access near shore, or do they come in for some other reason?
So the area that they come in is the Turnagain Arm has a bore tide. So we have a really huge tide that kind of moves out and moves in. So when the tide's all the way out, there's actually not water in the Turnagain Arm. So there's no other way to access that area unless the tide is in.
Yeah, and then as for do they come in for other reasons? They'll come kind of closer to shore to molt, to feed, have babies, stuff like that. Do you have any other questions?
We love questions.
We do, we really do.
Mm-hmm.
There are no bad questions. While we're waiting for people to maybe type out their questions, we did have some great questions yesterday when we did this program, so we can answer some of those, give some fun facts. So someone yesterday asked, what is the closest relative of the beluga? And the answer is our toothy friends to the north, the narwhal. So they're the beluga's closest relative. We also had a question yesterday, which is a very important question. What should you do if you see a stranded beluga? And so what you want to do is you want to observe the whale and its environment so you can give as much information as possible, because what you're going to do next is you're going to call the Alaska Sea Life Center's Animal Stranding Line, which is 888-774-7325.
We had another question from yesterday. What is the best way to responsibly observe belugas? So observe from a safe distance and respect their space. That's the most important. There are really great pull-off points all along the Turnagain Arm where you can view these animals without impeding on their habitat at all. Any other questions?
CC43PO said hello. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. Any other questions?
Okay. If you do have any other questions, we're going to pop up a slide in just a second with contact information for us and contact information for the Beluga Whale Alliance. So moving forward, we'll be hosting these virtual visits on a variety of different subjects on Zoom, Tuesdays and Wednesdays weekly through the summer. Oh, just got a question from Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Margaret. How can noise be reduced in the Cook Inlet given that human development keeps growing? That's an awesome question. So there's actually a commission out right now that is working on like a 5-year recovery plan. So they're assessing the damage that noise does to Cook Inlet belugas, and they're going to be moving forward with that. All of this information is available on NOAA, so NOAA. You can also find it on the Beluga Whale Alliance's information. Mm-hmm. But we don't know yet how.
It's going to take a lot of smart people to figure it out.
Yeah, and actually Suzanne is on their outreach board from the Beluga Whale Alliance. So she would probably be a great person to talk to about that. But I wanted to say a huge thank you to Suzanne and for her time from the Beluga Whale Alliance. And please reach out to us directly with any other questions. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah, and if you are looking to get involved with citizen science and you're having trouble finding a project to get involved in, shoot us an email at the address that is going to be on our contact information slide, and we'll help set you up with something. Because we really want everyone to get involved with citizen science because it is so cool. So we really hope you all get involved with some citizen science and make an impact on your ecosystem.
All right, well, thank you. Happy belated World Oceans Day.
Have a good day, guys.